So I will open now the second panel on the alternative fuels, so sustainable aviation fuel and hydrogen. So as you saw, according to the ATAG scenario, this is the main lever for decarbonization, more than 50% of the impact. At the forefront, sustainable aviation fuel, longer term, the hydrogen technology. What we will see in the panel is that we have a few challenges to overcome to scale and to put in place a real supply chain and the right level of renewable energy to produce these alternative fuels. So to discuss on that, I'm really pleased, side to Fatima, to welcome Andrea Andorno, Edward Arkwright, Pierre Hamelin, Pierre-Étienne Franc, Karine Guénan, and Matthias Burghardt. We need a lot of discipline. So thanks all of you. So as you can see, it's a rich panel. It's a really a strong ecosystemic approach. We wanted to have all the players on this key subject. We'll start with you, Karine Guénan. You are the VP of the Zero H2 ecosystem of Airbus, managing all the project around hydrogen at Airbus. With a central role on this ecosystem, what is your view on all the key levers that Edouard and Skander presented to us? What is the maturity for all of them? And especially, what is the place of alternative fuels, according to you, and in Airbus strategy?
What a question. Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with you and be already inspired by the talks earlier this morning, and for the Ardian team to be grateful to have gather us here this morning, as well as setting the scene through the ATAG and the various information shared about what it means to decarbonize aviation, so-called hard-to-abate sector. The moment today is about the fight for net zero for aviation. Let me guide you to fly the journey towards net zero for aviation. At Airbus, we set ourselves a big ambition to lead the journey to decarbonize our industry. And there is no single silver bullet solution. All the solutions, what you call the third pathway, is much needed in order to achieve net zero. What it means concretely is first, refleeting aircraft worldwide. I'm not sure you're conscious that today, on the global aircraft fleet in service, still 80% are from the latest, not the latest generation. So it means that we can, by simply refleeting aircraft fleet in service, have a big impact on the CO2 emission. Second is about SAF. You mentioned it earlier. This is a big lever in order to decarbonize our sector. View from today, already 50% of SAF blending is certified on all Airbus aircraft. So it means that we can immediately, as of today, operate transition to SAF with a significant CO2 reduction. We at Airbus are committed not only to be satisfied with such 50% blending, but bring, by the end of the decade, the capability to blend up to 100% on our existing aircraft models. When talking SAF, it's about biomass sourced. It's been mentioned about the quality and sustainability of the feedstock. We also strongly believe that there will be, at some point, certain physical limit to access such feedstock, and that's the reason why we are also a strong believer in the means that green hydrogen can bring to produce e-fuels in quite unlimited manner, except of course, securing our access to green electricity to produce such e-fuels, combining green hydrogen and CO2 capture with the direct air carbon capture solution, with this the solution to bring our operation to a net zero. And last but not least, obviously, I'm representing today here the zero emission initiatives from Airbus. We've set ourselves the ambition to bring to market a zero emission flying experience to the market by 2035. It's not that could bring, we are committed to bring it to market by 2035. You said it earlier, it is a challenge. In our industry, we are used to the challenges. It's a technology challenge. We know how to set the standards, but it's a quite unprecedented challenge when it comes also not only to bring the technology to maturity, but as well as to deploy the right energy ecosystem, as well as infrastructure ecosystem, together with the aircraft. Because it's useless to bring such an aircraft to market if we don't have been able to deploy collectively the right infrastructure and the right access to the green hydrogen at the right price and at the right volume and places. And this challenge is exactly what we collectively represent today on stage. We are very conscious and we recognize that we won't succeed on our own. We need to form that cohort all together in order really to deploy timely this ecosystem in order to accompany the entry into service of the zero-E aircraft by 2035. And I'm sure my colleagues here will develop further.
Thank you, Karine Guénon, for this strong introduction and strong message. Fatima da Gloria de Sousa, considering the lever that Karine Guénon mentioned, I have two questions for you. The first, you mentioned the fleet renewal. So what does it mean? What is the implication for an airline company, notably considering the goal of 100% compatibility with SAF and considering also the future hydrogen aircraft?
So normally airlines, when they buy an aircraft, it's meant to fly for at least 20 years. So it is indeed a little bit of a puzzle how we are going to integrate a new fleet coming in into the plan, knowing that maybe we need to accelerate certain developments that we have today. What we do know is that SAF and hydrogen will remain complementary. This is because hydrogen, due to the characteristics that it has, it is heavier, it is more voluminous. It does not have the same capabilities for long-haul flights. So we do expect that sustainable aviation fuels will stay in complement to hydrogen even when we look towards 2050. So I think that is a very important first conclusion to make. Secondly, if you look at sustainable aviation fuels, just to give you a little bit of background, we already saw from the study that the expectations are that we will be needing about 30 million tons by 2030. There are also some that are saying maybe 40 million tons by 2030. That means we need to go from 3 plants today to about 300 in 8 years. So that's quite an ambition we have. I always say, okay, if we have 3 major continents, each builds 100, hopefully we can make it. To bring it back to the airline, we are part of Clean Skies for Tomorrow. We are signatories. We have committed to 10% of SAF by 2030. And that, of course, will be a mix. It will be most of it still biomass-based. But we are also looking at how can we have more focus on hydrogen and evolutions in that area. And I do expect that we will see a period where there will be a combination of SAF, which is indeed, as Karine mentioned, fully drop-in. We hope that we will be 100% certified SAF by 2030, latest. So fully drop-in, no changes of technology, but we expect to see new hybrid solutions. That means not only electric aircraft, but electric motor with a hydrogen fuel cell, fully hydrogen fuel cells, or hydrogen combustion, indeed. And we will go through this period where we will need to see how this fleet renewal is going to develop. But yeah, definitely, whatever we do, we think SAF and hydrogen and all the hybrids in-betweens will remain important on the longer term.
And as you said, you have an ambitious target of 10%, which is above the official 6% target. So it's a positive message on your side. In this journey to alternative fuels, we know airport will be a key partner. So Edward Arkwright, you are Deputy CEO of ADP Group. I have two questions for you. So on the way you will support the emergence of these alternative fuels and hybrid solution, as Fatima mentioned. So on the first point, maybe on the sustainable aviation fuel, can you elaborate the initiative you have? I'm thinking about Le Bourget, notably, or experimentation or initiative with Airbus, or even in India, beyond Europe.
So good morning, everyone, and thanks a lot for this panel and these panels and this study. It's a great challenge, but it's a great ambition for us because we make a great job, which is allowing people to travel and continue to dream and to travel. So it's not a question of license to grow; it's a license to operate and license to make one of the greatest jobs that we can do. By saying that, on SAF, it is new for the airport because till now, energy was not a question for airport. Fuel was not a question in the operations. A lot of fuel, a lot of operators, easy to finance from a regulatory point of view, and so it was not a subject or not a challenge for us. Now we know that energy will be key in the competitiveness of an airport. Not only with one source of energy, but a lot of fuel, sustainable fuel, sustainable fuel, hydrogen, and a lot of need in terms of power and green electricity. That was not the case into the past. So we know that this challenge is key to face the future of our business and operation, and of course for our customer and my first customer. And so in Paris, CDG and Orly, the first challenge for us is, are we ready to welcome sustainable fuel? And the first good news is, yes, we are right now, because we have an hydrants network allowing us to welcome 10%, 5%, 15%, 20%, till 30% without any new infrastructures needs or new investments. The second answer is, can we propose to all the customers that are asking for the sufficient quantity of SAF? The answer is no, because we don't have enough production around Europe. It has been clearly explained. And we know that we have to convince European Commission, European states, European institutions to make the same effort and support that other countries and continents are doing as the United States. So with Air France, with Airbus, with a lot of, we are trying to convince all the European parties and politicians that we need this support. This support cannot be only money. It is a global framework, a global rules, stable rules, so a lot of ideas, and we can develop. And the last example, it is what you mentioned in Le Bourget, because today we have in Le Bourget 2 on the 3 fuel providers which can provide to all the customers as much as SAF as they want, and the demand is very high, higher and higher. In India, we are working with Airbus and Safran. We are operating in India, Delhi and Hyderabad airports. On how we can prepare the arrival of a lot of sustainable fuel in the Indian environment, not only for infrastructure, but also for production. And we are looking for, of course, the preparation of eSAF that has been already mentioned.
Okay, thanks for this answer on SAF. Looking at hydrogen, How far are you in the collaboration with the ecosystem on the hydrogen project? And what do you expect from this collaboration in terms of acceleration?
So I fully agree with what has been said by my colleagues, and thanks to Pierre. In 2014, Pierre explained to me that hydrogen is the future of aviation. And we are right now sitting at the same round table, and he explained me that we have to welcome hydrogen distribution station for cabs in CDG and Orly. We spent maybe 2.5 years
Oh my gosh, yeah.
to open 2 stations. But due to this experience, we have learned a lot from this experience. And sorry if I mentioned that, just to say that 6 or 7 years ago, we were working on this question, and we were already convinced that the combination between SAF, eSAF, and hydrogen is the future of our business and operations. I say the combination because, as Karin and Gloria has explained, we need all of them. And the combination is not only long haul, mid haul, not only do we need hydrogen for SAF or eSAF, but also a short term, mid term, long term. Hydrogen is reality today in our airports for ground operations, for net zero mobility, which is one of the main components of the scope 3 emissions of an airport. So, and we know that we have to prepare the future. It is, what does it need? What do we need to welcome hydrogen on our airports? I explained that for SAF, everything is ready. For hydrogen, anything is ready. We need new infrastructure to produce, to make liquefaction, to know if will the hydrogen go directly or do we have to transform? What are the needs in terms of land, in terms of regulation, in terms of reglementation? How can we work with all the local environmental authorities to make this hydrogen a huge infrastructure welcome and not a new source of noise, problems, etc.? And so we are working with Air Liquide and Airbus on that. We have launched with Air Liquide a JV in order to make and to propose to all the airports around the world studies in order to see what are these needs and to prepare the future of hydrogen, because it will be not only for one airport but a global network of airports.
Thank you. Pierre Hamelin, you are a Vice President on Hydrogen Partnership at Air Liquide. Edouard Arkwright mentioned the joint venture you are currently leading together. So can you elaborate on this joint venture, what you expect in terms of outcome for different horizons that Edouard Arkwright mentioned on hydrogen, and maybe more generally your view on partnership and your key milestone of the hydrogen roadmap at Air Liquide?
Thank you. Bonjour, everybody. Thanks for hosting this event. 2 years ago, we had a view and some certainty. Now we have a vision and we are convinced. What has happened basically is that since these 2 years, we launched a great cooperation with ADP and Airbus, where we went through analyzing the situation of 30 airports in detail, what it means to bring hydrogen there, what it means for the infrastructure, what will be the scenario of building the capabilities, what will be the supply chain scenarios, arriving with truck, then eventually pipeline or local production, as Edward mentioned, liquefaction, distribution. And the conclusion of this study, which cost us thousands of hours, is for 90% of them it's feasible. And that's how we moved from a view with certainty to a vision with conviction. And now to come to your question, there is a very big challenge clearly for the airports in terms of perspective and projection. And that's why with ADP we are creating this engineering JV. The engineering JV is meant to support the airports to define their journey toward the hydrogen. As a first step, basically, to build a tailor-made picture meant for the airport to understand, as Edward mentioned, what does it mean in their ecosystem, in the country in which they are, in the land which is available, in the basin of industry in which they are, concretely speaking, what does it mean for them, and build a high-level strategic picture which will enable the airports to project themselves. This will be for a couple of years. Karine then referred to 2035 as a key milestone. Approximately a decade will be needed for the airports to be ready fully for welcoming their hydrogen planes. And this decade will be broken down in two phases. First, where RGV can support them building a very detailed engineering picture in order to reach what I call a final investment decision, knowing exactly how much it costs in terms of energy, in terms of euro, in terms of land, in terms of time, and then accompanying them in making this investment happen and breaking basically all the infrastructures ready for 2035. So creating a strategic view for projection, preparing the decision to go up to FID, and then building the infrastructure. That's what the GW will be about, to help the airports in this journey.
So all of you mentioned some first initiatives, but also the key challenges we'll have to face. So we'll focus in the second phase of the panel on these challenges to overcome. We'll start with you, Andrea Andorno. You are the CEO of Sagat, heading the Torino airport. What are the specific challenges for a regional airport to support this move to alternative fuels? What have you tried to put in place to face that?
Okay, just hello everybody. Just a very short picture on regional airports and SAF. It is quite clear that that's the way. So regional airports are fully committed to actually embark in this very important change within the industry. It will take longer. So probably I see it as talking to many regional airports CEO, a book and claim system could be the way for smaller airports to be part of the game within SAF. And that's very important also because we talk about size and also geography, because we know that the production of SAF is currently scattered around Europe, but we like actually, the airline industry itself is very interconnected. So to move forward, we do need actually a system such as the book and claim system to allow everybody everywhere to purchase SAF. So that's the first step. Secondly, which is more important to me, it's Turin Airport initiatives. Well, I'm very happy to see, because we are committed, seriously committed to reaching net zero. And so also during the COVID time, we sat down and really thought about it at Turin Airport. Therefore, looking at the airport at the center, it was shown on a slide previously, that's how we are, that's how we're working in Turin Airport. That's why talking about hydrogen will be in 2023, will be the first Italian airport, maybe Europe, to actually use green hydrogen as well as store green hydrogen within the airport facility. It's an R&D, very small project, but it's very important because it's a milestone in terms of regulations, because we need to move forward and make understand our regulatory authorities. We know safety is very important within the aviation industry. To understand hydrogen, it's a reality. Even if it's around the corner, even if it's a medium long-term target, we must start making them understand it's there. Altogether, we have then a major project, which is we are converting our heating capabilities with hydrogen-ready fuel cells. That will be starting in 2024. So Turin Airport will be an off-taker. So we'll be able to blend hydrogen with gas. So locally, we'll cancel, there will be no combustion anymore in terms of heating and cooling the airport. Altogether, we're producing some electricity. So no local pollution, and being ready to take hydrogen, green hydrogen at the airport premises. So we're moving a little forward, but we want to do it because we really want to show that it is a way. We truly believe that's the way for the aviation, and the airport are key players for that.
Okay, thank you. We will deep dive more in the challenge with you, Pierre-Etienne Franc, your co-founder and CEO of HY24. So dedicated to support the full value chain of hydrogen. So you have a global view on what we have to do on that. First question on the SAF. How do you think, how can e-fuel become competitive? And what are the challenges also in terms of production for the SAF?
So the good news on SAF is that I think out of the more than 300 initiatives towards net zero in the aeronautics industry, 30% are dedicated to SAF. So that's good. 50 airports, I understand, are capable to dispense SAF today. 30 airlines have announced commitment. Now it's still very small numbers because it's barely 2.6 billion gallons by 2026, maybe 7 by 2030. It's only a couple of % of the total needs. And it's suffering from a couple of issues. First, classical SAF are competing, of course, with the use of biofuel for thermal engines. And it's cheaper and easier to do than doing jet fuels with biomass. So, second, there is not enough biomass resources to basically feed even the 2030 goals. So I think we have a couple of chances. Is that the ban, we need to see as a global ecosystem, the global ban on thermal engine in Europe is going to redirect everybody to batteries and fuel cell. So it's going to be to free more space for you, I think. And second, of course, the other topic is that we will need to move faster to the famous RNFBO, so the SAF using hydrogen and capture of CO or biogenic CO2. The problem there is that, and I think Pierre would be better than me to explain that, the efficiency of the SAF process is still very, very bad. It's 30%. And some of the processes are still a little bit nascent. So what we need is a scale-up of the oil and gas industries to basically use and repurpose some of their refineries. It's starting with Total, BP, Chevron, and a couple of others, but they need to move faster. We need probably also to unlock the capabilities to do cheaper hydrogen, and that's coming with the other use of hydrogen in the other segments. But it's a challenge. It's true that it's a challenge. But we are typically, as I-24, investing into one company called Hydrogen that is going to try to develop one of the largest e-fuel and sustainable aviation fuel project in the site of Gardanne, repurposing Gardanne. The project is called Innovera. If that project goes forward, it's mixing technologies to do hydrogen and converting biomass, recovering the CO, and doing sustainable aviation fuel. So you've got project at scale coming. Now the cost is still an issue, but I think that's the whole issue of the energy transition. Everybody will have to bear part of the overcost of the shift to new technologies. And then, of course, we have hydrogen, but we can say a couple of words.
Coming to hydrogen, so what is missing to accelerate this uptake in terms of production, in terms of supply chain, and also we have enough green energy to produce green hydrogen, and Matthias certainly will, at the end of the panel, will have a view on that.
You know, we should not put everything on the shoulders of aeronautics. I'm sorry, but aeronautics is 1% or 2% of the emissions, and if we take a broader view of what could happen with the use of hydrogen in planes, if everything goes fine, maybe in 20 years we will have, let's say, 100 regional airports shifting a share of their planes to regional, which is going to represent, in total aggregated, maybe 5 to 10 million tons of needs of hydrogen. At the same time, the hydrogen growth is expected to move from 100 to 600 million tons. So the burden is not only on aeronautics. On the other side, we should also see the things in relative numbers. Today, electricity is 25 kilo terawatt hours. It's supposed to double in the next 30 years at least. And we are building every year in renewable almost 200 gigawatts of new capacity. What we're speaking about for 5 to 10 million tons is basically 25 gigawatts. So yes, it's big, but it's not so significant. Then the question is locally, because one of the criticism is to say, oh, we're going to need to do gigawatts of electrolysis and solar panel on wind next to Charles de Gaulle. Or if we take Atlanta, I think Atlanta would require, if you convert the whole Atlanta airport, it would require maybe 2,600 tons per day of liquid hydrogen. Good luck. Not so easy. We are not yet ready. But it's not going to happen like that. It's going to start with a small part of the fleets for medium range. It's going to start in regional airports. So it will be hundreds of units of 100 tons per day, which is 250 megawatt electrolysis. And so it's relatively normal size. It's very realistic and tangible. And it's going to be connected to the grid. it's not going to be connected to solar panel just next door, because at the same time the grid will move with more and more renewable. So I don't think that those issues on hydrogen are significant. What is significant is that if you don't have the road transportation shifting to hydrogen at the same time, you will never have a drop of liquid hydrogen in the plane. Because you need the infra to deploy, to have a complete supply chain up and running flawlessly for customers for simpler things, which are trucks, bus, cars, intensive mobility. You need technology to continue to develop so that the fuel cell cost decrease, the reservoir cost decrease, all the supply chain systems decrease. And with that, you can decrease globally the cost of access of hydrogen to the airline industry. So what we need, and that's why we are very pleased that Airbus joins the fund. Because the fund will do some projects connected to airports, but the fund will not, in the time range we have, we will not invest in airplanes. But Airbus is sending a signal which is very strong, and Aéroport de Paris is the same, joining also the fund, that this is part of the overall shift of the energy system where everything, it's like a domino effect. If you don't convert the road mobility and the maritime, you cannot have enough available, cheap and competitive liquid hydrogen for airports. So that's what's needed now, and we're working on that, of course, with some projects done by Ardian.
So the ecosystem approach goes much beyond only the aviation sector. In this discussion, we focused a lot on Europe, but we know that most of the impact is outside Europe. Coming back to you, Pierre Hamelin, what is your view on how we can engage the global sector? Edouard Arkwright mentioned the initiative in India on SAF. How can we duplicate what we do in Europe more globally?
Thank you. I think if I look at the statements of IATA or ICAO, there are clear targets for 2050 for all regions. Some regions might have different maturity than others, indeed, but this business is truly global. What does it mean? It means basically that with the help of global companies, airports and the main routes will have to shift, and then the domestic players can benefit from that. In terms of perspective for me, globally, three things will matter to partner with is airports, airplane companies, and operators like Air France, so Airbus, Air France, and ADP, if I take the French case, but globally. Because these companies will set the frame, they are the one who will be impacted and will adapt eventually their business model. And with their perspective, globally, the infrastructure and supply chain actors will prepare around and in anticipation of them. So clearly for me, the need will not be a regional one, but a global one, because the business is global, and the driver will come from this triangle. And the supply chain and infrastructure companies, which we are part of, will be able, with this perspective, to prepare accordingly.
So we'd have to manage different maturities, but globally.
Exactly.
Karine Guénan, maybe do you have other challenges you want to mention beyond what was already explained here, as you have a central role in this industry?
I think testimony of all our speakers today demonstrates that challenges are quite numerous, and this is why, as private companies, we are also leading the journey in order to create those joint teams, joint efforts in understanding what it means to deploy such complex ecosystem. For each of us, it also means to work beyond our traditional boundaries. We are masters in designing aircraft, some others in airport operations, airlines or investor. It's a unique opportunity for all of us to create together those new competencies that are much needed to make it happen and to make it a reality tomorrow. So the challenges are numerous, but let me, on a pragmatic manner, maybe concentrate on few of them. We said it's about scaling up, and it's about timing. not only Airbus will bring to market by 2035 the zero-emission aircraft from 100 to 200 seats on commercial operations, but we do have also colleagues in the industry that are ambitioning to bring to market smaller platform by as soon as 2026. So it's tomorrow. Hydrogen is tomorrow. And that's also one of the reasons why we strongly believe in the hydrogen hub concept at airports. Airports is at a central pivotal role to bring and create, consolidate, catalyze all those hydrogen usages, not only for the aircraft when it comes to entry into service, but also to create and transition already all those e-things, light mobility, passenger buses, ground service equipment to green hydrogen in order not only to decarbonize Scope 3, Scope 1 airport footprint, but as well as starting to scale up the green hydrogen economy we need. And we need that molecule, all of us. It's a common objective. Second is about globally bringing to all the players in this market clarity and certainty. We said it. We've made our own studies. We know it's feasible. We know how, which steps are required. First step by few aircraft coming in, trucks refueling in a first instance. Then we know how also to deploy gaseous hydrogen up to the airport, liquefy it, then engineer full hydrogen plant on the airport. When it comes, it will come to hundreds of tons of consumption in the 2050, 60 onwards. We know it. Now we just need to have all the ecosystem, including the regulators, to bring that clarity and certainty to the investors in order to unlock the investment in order to make it deploying right away.
So you mentioned the investment, the investor. So Matthias Burgart, you are a leader in investing in renewable energy and infrastructure. How can you support, accelerate the development of this dedicated supply chain and accelerate the ramp-up?
Maybe just also mention something which I really noticed when we were working together on augmented infrastructure for some years now. And I think there is a quite significant change. Now I think that all the stakeholders of our industry are taking this very seriously. Before that was mainly led by marketing department. I don't have nothing against marketing department, but I think now it's appeared clearly that it's something which is at the core of the strategy. Not only at the top management level, this is considered as an absolute priority, but also at operational level, every people thinks that is the driving, I would say, force. And that's, I think, quite new. Things are really, people are really taking it seriously. Second thing, I think, something which always come is that we need to act together. And it's true. I mean, sometimes people say that, well, we need to collaborate, let's collaborate. But I think people are all convinced around the table and in the industry that if we don't do it, we won't reach this, I would say, this common goal, which is, I would say, existentialist for the aircraft industries and aviation industry. So what is our role and what can we contribute? First of all, I think we can obviously channel capital towards energy efficiency. That's the first thing we have to do. We have obviously the fantastic initiative of Clean Hydrogen Infrastructure Fund. I remember first time I spoke about clean hydrogen in my company, people were a little bit surprised. What does it mean? Why clean hydrogen? Maybe in 30 years and 40 years. And we see that this is becoming a reality. And what is incredible of this initiative, first, is obviously the largest fund of infrastructure for clean hydrogen infrastructure, but also how it has been raised. We raised 2 billion in just 1 year. So massive enthusiasm for this fund, which gathers, and that's quite unique as well. It's been sponsored initially not by financiers, but by industrial companies, Air Liquide, Total, Airbus, ADP, but also Plug Power, Lotus. So all international companies willing to act together to create together a fund and then attract financial investors. So I think it's quite unique, and that's also our role, I think, to bring people together and try to set common standards, common objective. That's also the role of Air Carbon. Air Carbon, our vision here is that if we speak the same language, if we set the same standard that we all converge and we agree on, including the priorities, we will be stronger to advocate with regulators, because we haven't spoke that much about regulators, but I believe that, in particular in Europe, they are now lagging a little bit behind. If we see how Americans have acted massively, very focused with the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, where they put very strong, I would say, capital objective, very focused with a view to reduce carbon emission by 40% by 2030. So it's massive. We need to go this route. And for that, we need to federate people with different tools, like Hy24, with Air Carbon, but there could be other initiatives where we set the same standards. I think that's absolutely the absolute priority for me.
Thank you for all these insights. So that confirm the collaborative approach. HY24 and the fund that will have been raised also confirm that. And probably this common approach will push regulation also to move. Edouard Arkwright, you stay with me for the third panel, and I'm letting the other speakers getting back to their seat. And many thanks again for this insight.